I'm Liam, 21 males. I live in a small apartment that's probably too expensive for what it is, trying to make a name for myself as a graphic design intern. For the last 6 months, my life was a simple loop of work, instant noodles, and saving every penny I could for my final year of college. Then she appeared, and my carefully planned world didn't just get shaken up, it got demolished. This is the story of how I was catfished and scammed out of $20,000, and how, with the help of a few other broken hearts, I orchestrated a revenge that would dismantle her entire operation. Before this story unfolds, I'd love to connect with you. Please let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is in your corner of the world. It's amazing to see how far these stories can travel. Chapter 1: An Angel in My DMs. It all started on a Tuesday. I was scrolling through my art account on Instagram, the one I use as a professional portfolio. I post my logos, my digital paintings, and the occasional branding concept I've been messing with. It's a small account mostly followed by other designers and a few friends. A direct message notification popped up from an account I didn't recognize, at Serafina Skies. My first thought was that it was a bot or spam, another offer to buy fake followers. But the profile picture was captivating. It was a girl with warm, amber eyes and a cascade of dark, curly hair, smiling a genuine, heart-stopping smile. The photo was high quality, but it didn't look overly staged. It just looked real. Curiosity 1, I opened the message. Hi, I just stumbled across your page and your work is absolutely incredible. That recent logo concept for Orbit Coffee, genius. My heart did a little flip. It was one of my favorite personal projects, something I'd poured weeks into. For someone to not only notice it but to call it out specifically felt amazing. I checked her profile. It was private, but the bio read, art lover traveler chasing sunsets and good stories. It had about 800 followers and was following a similar number. It seemed normal, not like a bot or a huge influencer. It felt personal. So I replied, wow, thank you so much, that honestly means a lot, I'm glad you liked it. That simple exchange was the hook, line, and sinker. We started talking. At first, it was about art. She told me she was a freelance writer currently traveling through Southeast Asia working on a travelogue. She had a way with words that made her life sound like a movie. She described the street markets in Bangkok, the ancient temples in Cambodia, the pristine beaches in the Philippines. I was stuck in my tiny apartment eating ramen, and she was painting a picture of a world I'd only ever dreamed of seeing. Her name, she said, was Serafina. Even her name sounded like something out of a storybook. She was 23, 2 years older than me, and seemed to have a wisdom and confidence I could only aspire to. Over the next few days, our conversations moved from Instagram DMs to a more private messaging app. We talked every single day. We'd send messages when I woke up and just before she went to bed, navigating the time difference. The conversation flowed effortlessly. We talked about everything, our dreams, our fears, our families, our favorite stupid memes. She had a disarming way of being both deeply profound and incredibly silly. One minute she'd be talking about the transient nature of life, and the next she'd be sending me a ridiculous cat video. She never video chatted, which I thought was a little strange at first. She always had a plausible excuse. The Wi-Fi in this hostel is terrible, it can barely handle a text, or I'm on a long bus ride with spotty signal, or I look like a mess right now, totally not camera ready. Her excuses were always delivered with such charm that I brushed my doubts aside. Besides, she sent me photos, lots of them, selfies of her on a beach, her hair messy from the sea breeze. Photos of her holding exotic fruits at a market. A picture of her feet propped up on a balcony railing overlooking a stunning sunset. Each photo seemed to confirm her story. They were never model perfect either. Sometimes her hair was frizzy or she had no makeup on. This, ironically, made her seem even more real. She wasn't trying to be perfect, she just was. My best friend David was skeptical from the start. Dude, you haven't even seen her on a video call. Are you sure she's real? He'd ask every time I mentioned her name, which was becoming more and more frequent. David was an IT guy, pragmatic to a fault. His world was one of logic, code, and firewalls. He saw potential threats where I saw potential romance. Of course she's real, I'd argue, pulling up her latest picture. Look, she just sent me this from a cafe in Vietnam, and we talk for hours. You can't fake a connection like that. You can fake anything online, Liam, he'd say, shaking his head. Just be careful, reverse 'em. Search one of her photos at least. I scoffed at the suggestion. It felt like a betrayal of the trust Serafina and I were building. To me, our connection was the most real thing in my life. She was my biggest supporter. When my internship boss shot down a design I'd worked on for a week, she was the one who talked me through the disappointment. When I was feeling overwhelmed by the pressure of saving for college, she was the one who told me she believed in me. She became my confidant, my cheerleader, and in my mind, my long-distance girlfriend. We never put a label on it, but the late night, I miss you texts and the constant, thinking of you messages made it feel official. The 6 months we talked were some of the happiest of my life. I felt seen and understood in a way I never had before. I was falling in love with a woman I'd never met, a woman who lived on the other side of the world, a woman who existed only through my phone screen. The intensity of my feelings blinded me to the small, red flags that were popping up, like tiny warning signals on a dashboard I refused to look at. Her stories were always grand, but the details were sometimes fuzzy. She never talked about friends or family back home. When I asked, she'd get vague, saying her family situation was complicated and she was traveling to find herself. It was the perfect tragic backstory for a beautiful nomadic soul, and I bought every single word of it. Chapter 2: The $20,000 Disappearing Act. The fantasy started to curdle about 6 months in. Serafina's messages began to take on a new, more anxious tone. The carefree traveler was being replaced by someone stressed and worried. It started subtly. My laptop just died on me. It's going to be impossible to get my writing work done now," she messaged me one night. I immediately offered sympathy and suggested places she could get it fixed. She brushed it off, saying parts were hard to come by where she was, a remote island in Indonesia. A week later, the problems escalated. "Liam, something terrible happened," the message read. My stomach dropped. I typed back instantly, "What, are you okay?" The story she spun was a masterpiece of manipulation. Her bag had been stolen, her passport, her wallet, her phone, everything was gone. She was using a borrowed computer at a local police station to message me. She said the embassy was being slow and unhelpful, and she was stranded with no money and no way to get home. She described the panic, the fear, the feeling of being utterly alone in a foreign country. Her words were so vivid, so filled with raw emotion, that I could almost feel her desperation through the screen. "I don't know what to do," she wrote. "I've tried to contact my family, but it's complicated. I feel so stupid and so scared." My hero complex kicked into overdrive. Here was this incredible person I cared about so deeply in serious trouble. Of course I had to help. "Whatever you need, Serafina, I'm here. Just tell me what to do," I replied, my heart pounding with a mixture of fear for her and a strange sense of purpose. This was the opening she was waiting for. "I hate to even ask this," she typed, the digital equivalent of a hesitant, pained look. "It's so embarrassing, but I need money to get a temporary passport and a flight home. I'll pay you back the second I land and get access to my bank account, I promise." "How much do you need?" I asked, already opening my banking app. She named a figure that made me gasp: $3,500. It was a huge amount of money, but in the context of being stranded overseas, it sounded plausible. I didn't have that kind of cash just lying around. Except I did, in my savings account. The account I had meticulously fed with every spare dollar for the last 3 years, my college savings. It was my ticket to finishing my degree without being saddled with crippling debt. I hesitated for only a moment. This was Serafina, the woman who had filled my life with so much joy. This was an emergency. My education could wait a few weeks, her safety couldn't. "I have it," I wrote back. "Send me the details, I'll wire it now." The relief in her messages was palpable. "Liam, you're my hero, my angel. I don't know how I can ever thank you. I'll pay you back, I swear on my life." She sent me the wiring information for a trusted local friend who could receive the money for her since she had no ID. It was another red flag, a giant crimson banner flapping in the wind, but I was too blinded by love and panic to see it. I transferred the money. The confirmation email from my bank felt like a good deed, a tangible act of love. But the emergencies didn't stop there. A week later, there was a problem with the temporary passport. Bureaucratic nonsense, she called it. She needed another $2,000 for an expediting fee. I flinched, but I sent it. Then her friend who was supposed to book the flight turned out to be less than trustworthy and allegedly ran FF with some of the money. She needed another $4,500 for a last-minute ticket. Each request came with a beautifully crafted story of desperation, shame, and endless promises to repay me. Each time I gritted my teeth, my stomach churning with anxiety, and sent the money. I was in too deep to back out now. I had to see her home safely. David watched all of this with growing alarm. "Liam, stop," he pleaded with me after I confessed to sending the third wire transfer. "You're being scammed. This is a classic catfish scenario. The sob story, the endless requests for money, the no video calls, it's all there." "You don't know her," I yelled at him, defensive and angry. "It's easy for you to be cynical, but she's in real trouble. What kind of friend would I be if I abandoned her now?" Our friendship became strained. I avoided his calls, knowing he would only try to talk sense into me and I wasn't ready to listen. In my mind, I was the noble hero saving the damsel in distress. The reality was that I was a fish on a hook and she was slowly, expertly reeling me in. Over the course of a month, the request totaled just over $20,000. My entire college fund, every dollar I had saved since I was a teenager mowing lawns, every paycheck I had carefully squirreled away from my internship. It was all gone. The final transfer was for her unexpected medical bills after she supposedly came down with a bad case of dengue fever. That one cost me the last $2,500 in my account. My savings account read $14.32. After that last transfer, she promised that was it. She had her flight booked. She sent me the flight details, a flight from Jakarta to Los Angeles arriving in 3 days. "I'll be home soon," she messaged. "We can finally be together. The first thing I'm doing is paying you back every cent, and then I'm taking you out for the best dinner of your life." I clung to that promise like a life raft. The past month had been a nightmare of financial anxiety, but the thought of finally meeting her, of holding her in my arms, made it all seem worth it. I spent the next 3 days in a state of nervous excitement. I cleaned my apartment, bought new sheets for my bed, and even bought a bottle of champagne to celebrate. I tracked the flight online, watching its little airplane icon inch its way across the Pacific Ocean. The flight landed. I sent her a message. "You've landed, welcome home, let me know when you're through customs, I can't wait to see you." An hour passed, no reply. Another hour, silence. My frantic messages, "Are you okay? Did you get my text? Serafina, please answer me," went undelivered. I checked the messaging app. Her profile picture was gone, replaced by the generic gray avatar. I tried to go to her Instagram profile at Serafina Skies. User not found. A cold, sickening dread washed over me. I tried to call the number she had occasionally used. "The number you have dialed is not in service." She was gone. The profile, the pictures, the promises, all of it had vanished. It wasn't a disappearing act, it was an erasure. And with her, my $20,000, my trust, and my heart had vanished too. The champagne sat unopened on my counter, a monument to my own colossal stupidity. David had been right. I wasn't a hero, I was a fool. Chapter 3: A Single Fateful Tag. The first week after she vanished was a blur of shame and self-loathing. I didn't tell anyone. How could I? How could I admit to my parents that the college fund they had helped me build was gone? How could I face David and hear the "I told you so" that I so richly deserved? So I wallowed in silence. I went to my internship and stared blankly at my computer screen, unable to design anything. I came home to my empty apartment and the unopened bottle of champagne, a constant, mocking reminder of my idiocy. My world had shrunk to the size of my grief. The financial reality hit me like a ton of bricks. My final year of college was supposed to start in 2 months. Without that money, I couldn't register for classes. My dream of graduating, of starting my career, was suddenly on the verge of collapsing. The weight of it was suffocating. I felt like I had not only lost my money but my entire future. After about 2 weeks of this self-imposed exile, David showed up at my door. He didn't say, "I told you so." He just looked at my disheveled appearance, the takeout boxes littering the counter, and the hollow look in my eyes. He brought a pizza and 2 beers. "Talk to me," he said simply. And so I did. The whole sordid story came pouring out of me, the lies, the manipulation, the staggering amount of money. I cried, not just for the money but for the person I thought Serafina was. I was mourning a ghost, a carefully constructed illusion that I had fallen in love with. David listened patiently without a hint of judgment. When I was done, he just nodded. "Okay," he said, "so we're going to get her." "Get her, David, she's gone, she doesn't exist. The name TH. E-photos, the accounts, it's all fake." "Nothing online is ever truly gone," he said, a glint of determination in his eyes. "She left a trail, we just have to find it." His confidence gave me the first flicker of hope I'd felt in weeks. He was right, I couldn't just lie down and accept this. I had been violated, and the person who did this was probably already lining up her next victim. The grief started to slowly curdle into anger, a cold, hard anger that demanded action. Our first step was David's idea, the reverse image search he had suggested months ago. I had been too proud and too in love to do it then, but now it was our only lead. I scrolled back through my chat history, my fingers trembling as I saved the photos she had sent me. The selfie on the beach, the one in the cafe, the one with the sunset. I uploaded the first one, the beach photo, to a reverse image search engine. The results loaded and my blood ran cold. The photo didn't belong to Serafina. It belonged to a popular travel blogger from Brazil, a woman with over 300,000 followers. We clicked on her profile. It was a feed full of stunning, professional photos from all over the world, and there they were, all of Serafina's pictures. The cafe in Vietnam, the market in Bangkok, the sunset in Indonesia. My scammer had simply stolen this woman's entire online identity, cherry-picking the more amateur-looking photos to build her fake persona. Seeing the real woman behind the photos was jarring. She was a real person, living her life, completely unaware that her face was being used to break hearts and drain bank accounts. It was a devastating confirmation, but it was also a lead. The scammer was lazy. If she stole these photos, what else had she been careless about? David and I spent the entire weekend hunched over his laptop, fueled by coffee and a burning desire for justice. We analyzed every piece of information we had, the wiring details, the defunct phone number, the usernames. The wiring information led to a dead end, a series of prepaid debit cards that were untraceable. The phone number was a burner. It seemed like she had covered her tracks perfectly. We were about to give up for the night when I had an idea. It was a long shot. Go back to the travel blogger's Instagram, I said. Maybe the scammer slipped up. Maybe she left a comment or a like somewhere from one of her other accounts. It was a needle in a haystack idea. The blogger had thousands of comments on each post, but we had nothing else. We started scrolling. For hours we sifted through an endless sea of "so beautiful" and "OMG goals" comments. Just as my eyes were starting to glaze over, David pointed at the screen. Wait, look at this. It was a photo the blogger had posted about 7 months ago, right around the time I first started talking to Serafina. In the photo, the blogger was posing with a group of friends at a festival in Europe, and someone had tagged her. A small, seemingly insignificant account. But what caught David's eye was the comment underneath from another user. The comment read, "You look so amazing, wish I could have been there, Maya." And the account that was tagged replied, @user, thanks, miss you, but this girl in the pic with me totally stole my look, lol. The tagged account's handle was something generic, but the name on the profile was Maya J. The profile was private with only about 150 followers. On its own, it meant nothing. But then David clicked on the account that had left the comment. This one was public. It was a normal-looking girl. We scrolled through her photos, and then we saw it. A group photo from about a year ago. In the photo were 5 or 6 girls, and one of them I recognized. It wasn't the face of the Brazilian travel blogger. It was a different face. But the smile, it was the same charming, slightly mischievous smile from a single, unique photo Serafina had once sent me. She had claimed it was a silly old picture a friend took. It was the only photo she had ever sent that we couldn't find on the travel blogger's feed. I had always thought it was special, a picture just for me. Now I knew why. It was one of the few photos of her real face that she had carelessly sent. And in this group photo on this random girl's account, someone had tagged her. We clicked the tag. It led to the same private profile, Maya J. My heart was hammering against my ribs. That's her, I whispered. David, that's her. We didn't have a full name, but we had a first name, a possible last initial, and a face. A real face. For the first time, our ghost had a flicker of a real identity. The single, fateful tag, a tiny mistake in her otherwise flawless digital security, was the thread that would unravel everything. Chapter 4: The Digital Breadcrumbs. Finding the Maya J profile was like discovering a key, but we still didn't know what lock it opened. The profile was a fortress, private, with no revealing information in the bio. We had a real face, but we were still a long way from finding the person behind it. This was where David's IT skills truly came into play. Okay, he said, cracking his knuckles. Standard procedure for doxing a semi-anonymous profile. We start with the digital breadcrumbs she left behind. Our first target was her followers. A private profile with only 150 followers often means it's a personal account, and the followers are likely real-life friends, family, or colleagues. David wrote a simple script to scrape the usernames of all 150 of her followers. Then we started the tedious process of going through them one by one, looking for connections. We were looking for public profiles, people who might have tagged Maya in other photos, or people who shared a last name. It was a slow, painstaking process. Most profiles were also private. The public ones were mostly dead ends, people with thousands of posts and no obvious connection to Maya. But after hours of sifting through vacation photos and graduation pictures, we found something. One of her followers, a guy named Kevin P., had a public Facebook profile linked in his Instagram bio. His profile was a goldmine. He was a recent graduate of a state university about 3 hours away from us. We scrolled through his public photos, and there, in a photo album titled Graduation 2023, was Maya. She was standing with Kevin, both of them in caps and gowns, beaming at the camera. The caption read, "So proud we made it. Congrats to my partner in crime, Maya Johnson. The world isn't ready for us." Maya Johnson, we had a full name. The dam broke. With a full name and a university, the floodgates of information opened. A quick search of the university's online alumni network confirmed her attendance. Maya Johnson graduated in 2023 with a degree in communications. Her focus, social media management, it was all clicking into place. Her story about being a writer wasn't a total fabrication, it was a twisted version of the truth. She was a professional communicator, but she used her skills for manipulation, not storytelling. "I've got an address," David said, his voice low and serious. He had cross-referenced her name with public records and voter registration databases. "We found a current address for a Maya Johnson of the correct age living in a suburb just an hour's drive from our city. It wasn't some exotic location in Southeast Asia. She was practically our neighbor." The thought made me sick. While I was imagining her on a beach in Bali, she was likely sitting in a nondescript apartment, probably laughing at how easy it was. The anger I felt was white-hot, but we needed more than just a name and address. We needed proof that she was the one who scammed me. We needed evidence that tied Maya Johnson to the persona of Serafina. Without it, it was just my word against hers. David suggested we go back to the financial trail. "The wire transfers went to prepaid cards, which are a dead end," he explained. "But how did she ask for the information? Did she ever use email?" I racked my brain. We had communicated almost exclusively on the messaging app. But I remembered one time for the second large transfer the app was supposedly glitching for her. She had asked for my email address to send the wiring details from her friend's account. I had completely forgotten about it. I frantically searched my email inbox, digging through spam and old messages. And there it was, an email from an obscure address, quantumleap88@gmail.com. The email itself was simple, just the wiring instructions. At the time, I didn't think twice about it. David's eyes lit up. "This is it. This is the kind of mistake they make." He explained that people often get lazy with their digital security, reusing email addresses or passwords across different services. He ran the email address through a database of known data breaches. Bingo! The email address quantumleap88@gmail.com had been compromised in a data breach of a small online forum for graphic designers a few years back. And the username associated with that email on the forum, Maya J Designs. The pieces were slamming together. She had likely created the email for her scams but had once long ago used it for a personal interest, graphic design. It was another link, another breadcrumb connecting the ghost of Serafina to the real-world Maya Johnson. She had targeted me on my design account not just because she was looking for a victim but because she had a genuine interest in the field. It was how she made her initial approach so believable. She knew the terminology. She knew what project to compliment. She wasn't just a scammer. She was a methodical predator who researched her prey. We had her name, her face, her address, and a digital link between her real identity and the scam. But what could we do with it? Going to the police felt like a long shot. Digital crimes are notoriously difficult to prosecute, and the evidence was circumstantial. It could get bogged down in legal red tape for years. And I wouldn't get my money back. I didn't just want justice. I wanted to make sure she could never do this to anyone else again. That night, feeling emboldened by our discoveries, I did something I hadn't dared to do before. I made a post. On a throwaway Reddit account I posted to the r/scam subreddit. I laid out the entire story, withholding her real name for now but detailing the persona of Serafina, the stolen photos of the Brazilian travel blogger, and the method of the scam. I ended the post with a simple question. Has a woman calling herself Serafina using these photos ever contacted you? I didn't expect much, maybe a few words of sympathy, maybe some advice. I went to bed feeling a small sense of release just from putting the story out into the world. When I woke up the next morning, my post had over 1,000 upvotes, and my inbox was flooded with messages. One subject line stood out: "She got me too." It was from a user named Code Queen Jenna. My heart stopped. I opened the message. It began, "I think we need to talk. She didn't call herself Serafina with me, she called herself Luna, but she used the same photos and the same stories. And she scammed me out of $15,000. Chapter 5: Assembling the Avengers. The message from Code Queen Jenna, whose real name was Jenna, was a bombshell. Reading her story was like reading a slightly altered version of my own. For her, the scammer's name was Luna, a supposed freelance photographer. The sob story was different. Instead of being stranded, Luna needed money for a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to photograph endangered snow leopards in the Himalayas, a project that fell through and left her in debt to shady fixers. The core mechanics, however, were identical. The stolen photos, the constant emergencies, the promises of repayment, and the final brutal ghosting. Jenna was a 26-year-old paralegal from Chicago. She was sharp, articulate, and furious. She had already been to the police who had given her the runaround, telling her it was a civil matter and nearly impossible to trace. They made me feel like an idiot, she wrote. Like I should have known better, but she was so good, so convincing. Reading her words, a huge weight of shame lifted from my shoulders. I wasn't the only one. I wasn't uniquely stupid. I was just another victim of a highly skilled predator. We arranged a video call that evening, me, David, and Jenna. Seeing her face, a real person who had gone through the same ordeal, was incredibly validating. She had a no-nonsense energy about her, her anger channeled into a steely resolve. I found your Reddit post through an alert I set up for the travel blogger's name, she explained. After I got scammed, I figured out whose photos she was using. I've been monitoring them ever since, hoping she'd slip up. We pooled our information. My discovery of Maya Johnson's real identity combined with Jenna's experience painted a much clearer picture. This wasn't a one-off crime, it was a systematic operation. We soon realized my Reddit post had opened the floodgates. Over the next 48 hours, 2 more victims came forward. The first was a 45-year-old retired Army sergeant from Texas named Frank. For him, the persona was Clara, a nurse working with a nonprofit in a war-torn African country. She had scammed him out of his life savings, nearly $50,000, with a horrific story about needing to bribe officials to get medical supplies for dying children. Frank was heartbroken not just about the money, but about the betrayal of his trust and his desire to do good. The second was a 28-year-old chef from Seattle named Marcus. His scammer was Aria, a food blogger who needed capital to open her dream cafe. He lost $10,000. Each story was unique in its details but identical in its structure. Maya was a chameleon, tailoring her personas and stories to match the interests and vulnerabilities of her targets. She preyed on designers, paralegals, veterans, and chefs. Anyone with a heart and some savings was a potential mark. We formed an unlikely team, a small group united by our shared trauma and a burning desire for revenge. We started a secure group chat which we jokingly nicknamed the Avengers HQ. David was our tech guru, the Nick Fury who managed our digital investigation. Jenna, with her paralegal background, became our legal strategist, the Black Widow, who knew how to gather evidence and understand the legal ramifications of our actions. Frank, the stoic veteran, was our Captain America, a moral compass who kept us grounded and focused on justice, not just vengeance. And Marcus, the chef, became our Hulk, calm and creative, but with a simmering rage that fueled our determination. I, the graphic designer who had started it all, was tasked with being our creative director, the Iron Man who would eventually design the weapon of our revenge. Our goal was twofold. First, we wanted our money back. Second, and more importantly, we wanted to destroy Maya Johnson's ability to ever scam anyone again. We knew a conventional legal battle would be slow and likely fruitless. We needed to hit her where she lived, online. Her entire operation was built on a foundation of digital lies. We decided we would tear that foundation down with an avalanche of digital truth. Jenna laid out the legal framework. We can't harass or threaten her, she warned. That would make us the criminals. Everything we do has to be legal, factual, and backed by evidence. We aren't seeking vigilante justice. We are launching a public information campaign. The plan began to take shape. It would be a multi-pronged digital assault, designed to expose her identity and her crimes so thoroughly that her name, Maya Johnson, would become synonymous with scammer on any search engine. Phase 1, Evidence Consolidation. We spent a week meticulously gathering and organizing our evidence. Every chat log, every email, every wire transfer receipt was compiled into a shared, encrypted folder. We created detailed timelines of our interactions with her various personas. David even managed to use the email address we found to uncover a few more of her digital footprints, including a Pinterest account and a dormant Etsy shop where she had once tried to sell generic, uninspired digital art. Every piece of data was another nail in her coffin. Phase 2, the website. As the graphic designer, my job was to build a website. It wouldn't be a messy, angry rant. It would be a clean, professional, and damning portfolio of her work. The domain name we chose was simple: https://www.google.com/search q=MayaJohnsonExposed.com. The homepage would feature a clear, recent photo of her from the graduation picture. The headline would read, "The Many Faces of a Serial Catfish." Below that, we would lay out the evidence case by case. Each victim would have their own section: the Liam case as Serafina, the Jenna case as Luna, the Frank case as Clara, and the Marcus case as Aria. Each section would feature the fake name, the stolen photos she used, a summary of the story she told, and redacted screenshots of the chat logs and transfer receipts. We would link to the real travel blogger's account to show exactly where the photos came from. The entire site was designed to be irrefutable. Phase 3, the social media blitz. A website alone wasn't enough. We needed to drive traffic to it. David secured social media handles on all major platforms: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all named Exposing Maya Johnson. I designed a series of infographics and short, shareable videos, each one detailing a specific aspect of the scam. One infographic showed the 4 different personas and the total amount of money stolen. Another showed the side-by-side comparison of Maya's real photo and the stolen photos. We prepared our content meticulously, ready to launch it all at once. We were no longer victims. We were a team. We were organized, motivated, and armed with the truth. Maya Johnson thought she had scammed a few isolated, heartbroken individuals. She had no idea that she had inadvertently created a task force dedicated to her complete and utter downfall. We had the plan, we had the evidence, and we were ready to fight back. Chapter 6: The Day the Internet Fought Back. The day we chose for the launch D-Day, as Frank called it, was a Wednesday. We had spent 2 weeks finalizing every detail. The website was live but not yet indexed by Google. The social media accounts were created but dormant. The content was queued up and ready to deploy. We coordinated over a final video call, a digital war room meeting. "Everyone ready?" David asked, his face illuminated by the glow of his multiple monitors. We all gave a grim, determined nod. "On my mark, 3, 2, 1, launch." In unison, from 4 different cities, we clicked publish. The website went public. The first tweets, Instagram posts, and Facebook updates were sent out. The first TikTok video, a fast-paced montage of Maya's different personas set to dramatic music, was uploaded. We used carefully selected hashtags: Catfish, Scam Alert, Maya Johnson, Exposed Justice. Then we executed the most crucial part of the plan. We each took the link to the website and our main social media posts and sent them to Maya herself. Not through our personal accounts, but through the anonymous ones we had created. Jenna sent it to her university's Alumni Association Facebook page. Marcus sent it to food bloggers and restaurant groups in her city. Frank sent it to veteran support groups. I sent it to graphic design communities. And most importantly, David sent it to every single one of the 150 followers on Maya's private Maya J Instagram account. We messaged her friends, her family, her old classmates. The message was simple and non-threatening. We believe you should be aware of this information regarding Maya Johnson. For the first hour, there was silence. The website traffic was minimal, just us clicking refresh every 5 seconds. I started to feel a pit in my stomach. What if nobody cared? What if it just fizzled out? Then it started, a trickle, then a stream, then a flood. The first domino to fall was one of Maya's followers. A girl messaged us on the Exposing Maya Johnson Instagram. "Is this real? I've known Maya for years. I can't believe this." We replied instantly, "Everything on the website is documented and verifiable." A few minutes later, our post in her university's alumni group exploded. Comments poured in. "I went to school with her. She was in my comms class. I always thought something was off about her." The link was being shared. The story was spreading like wildfire through the network of people who knew her in real life. The real tipping point came when the original travel blogger, the Brazilian woman whose photos Maya had stolen, found our page. Someone had tagged her in one of our Instagram posts. She was understandably horrified and outraged. She shared our website link in her Instagram stories, writing to her 300,000 followers. "This woman, Maya Johnson, has been using my photos to scam people out of thousands of dollars. Please share this to prevent her from hurting anyone else." That was the moment the internet took over. Her followers were furious on her behalf. The story was picked up by a popular online commentary YouTuber who specialized in internet drama. He made a 20-minute video about our story, walking his million subscribers through our website piece by piece. The video was titled "The Secret Life of a Catfish Scammer." By the end of the day, it had 500,000 views. The website traffic crashed our server twice. David scrambled to upgrade the hosting. "We're viral," he said, a note of awe in his voice. Maya Johnson was trending on Twitter in her local region. News outlets and blogs started writing articles about the crowdsourced investigation that exposed a serial catfish. And then we heard from Maya. She didn't contact us directly. Instead, she went into a full-blown panic mode. Her private Instagram, Maya J, was deleted. Her Facebook profile vanished. Any digital presence she had under her real name was scrubbed from the internet. But it was too late. We had screenshots of everything, and her identity was already out there, permanently linked to the scandal. Then came the message we had been waiting for. It wasn't from Maya, but from a woman who identified herself as Maya's mother. She had found our contact information on the website. Her message was a desperate, rambling plea. "Please take the website down," she wrote. "You are destroying my daughter's life. She made a mistake. She's a good girl who got in over her head. She's devastated and sorry for what she did. She'll pay you all back, every penny. Just please make this stop." Jenna took the lead in crafting our response. It was polite, professional, and unyielding. "Thank you for your message. We appreciate you reaching out. This was never just about the money. Your daughter systematically and maliciously targeted, manipulated, and defrauded multiple people, causing significant financial and emotional devastation. This wasn't a mistake, it was a criminal enterprise. We will consider removing the website under 2 conditions. First, full and immediate restitution to all known victims, which currently totals $95,000. Second, a signed, legally binding confession from Maya detailing her actions, which we will hold in escrow. This is not negotiable. We knew it was a bold move, but the leverage was entirely on our side. Her reputation was in ashes. Her ability to ever work in social media or any field that required a background check was gone. Her name was now toxic online. 2 days later, a lawyer representing the Johnson family contacted Jenna. The negotiations were brief. They tried to argue to lessen the amount to avoid the confession. But every time they pushed back, we would see another spike in traffic to the website as a new article or video was posted about the story. They had no choice. Within a week, the full $95,000 was wired to a client trust account managed by Jenna's law firm. The signed confession arrived via courier the next day. We had done it. Against all odds, we had won. We had taken on a phantom who had ruined our lives, and through teamwork and the power of the internet, we had unmasked her, exposed her, and forced her to answer for her crimes. The day the internet fought back was the day we got our justice. Chapter 7: A New Beginning. The moment the wire transfer confirmation hit Jenna's inbox was surreal. For weeks, we had been running on adrenaline and rage. Now, in the sudden quiet after the storm, there was just a profound sense of relief. Jenna, ever the meticulous paralegal, the money and wired each of us our exact share of the recovered funds. Seeing the $20,000 reappear in my bank account didn't feel like a victory lap. It felt like closing a painful, expensive chapter of my life. The money was just money. The real prize was the reclamation of my own dignity. We, the Avengers, had a final video call. It was different from our war room meetings. The tension was gone, replaced by a strange, bittersweet camaraderie. We were 4 strangers from different walks of life, bound together by a shared trauma, who had accomplished something incredible. "So what happens now?" Marcus asked, swirling a glass of wine. "Now we uphold our end of the bargain," Jenna said. "We take down the website." There was a moment of hesitation. A part of me, the angry, vengeful part, wanted to leave it up forever, a permanent digital monument to her crimes. But Frank, our moral compass, spoke up. "We're not her," he said, his voice calm and steady. "We fought for justice, not eternal punishment. We gave our word." He was right, we had won. There was no need to salt the earth. With a final shared screen session, David typed the commands and https://www.google.com/search q = Maya Johnson exposed. Com and all its associated social media accounts blinked out of existence. We kept the signed confession in trust, a permanent insurance policy should she ever think of trying something similar again. In the weeks that followed, we all started to piece our lives back together. Frank used his recovered savings to go on a real charity mission to help build a school in Guatemala, something Clara had pretended to be doing. Marcus put a down payment on a food truck, finally making his dream of owning his own business a reality. Jenna, empowered by our success, started a side project offering pro bono legal advice to other victims of online fraud. And me, I registered for my final year of college. The cloud of financial ruin was gone. I walked onto campus that fall feeling lighter than I had in years. The experience had changed me. I was no longer the naive, overly trusting kid who fell for a pretty picture and a good story. I was more cautious, more cynical perhaps, but I was also stronger. I had learned the hard way about the darkness that can exist online, but I had also learned about the incredible power of solidarity. My friendship with David was stronger than ever. He never held my initial foolishness against me. Instead, he celebrated our victory with me. "See," he said, clapping me on the back. "I told you nothing online is ever truly gone. That goes for the bad stuff and the good." I threw myself into my design work with a renewed passion. My final year project was a public awareness campaign about catfishing and online scams. I used my design skills to create a series of powerful, visually striking posters and a website filled with resources for victims. I told my own story anonymously as a case study. The project won a university award and was even featured on a few local news sites. I had taken the worst experience of my life and transformed it into something positive, something that could help others avoid the same fate. I never heard from Maya Johnson again. I occasionally Googled her name out of a morbid curiosity. The first few pages of results were still littered with news articles about the scandal ghost imprints of the website we had created. Her digital reputation was destroyed just as we had planned. I don't know if she ever truly felt remorse or if she was just sorry she got caught. In a way, it didn't matter. She had been neutralized. Sometimes when I'm scrolling through social media, I'll see a picture of a beautiful sunset or an exotic location, and for a fleeting second, a shadow of the old hurt will pass over me. But it no longer has power. It's just a scar, a reminder of a battle fought and won. I didn't find love online, but I found something else. A group of unlikely friends, a sense of my own strength, and a brand new beginning built on the ashes of a painful but valuable lesson. The perfect girl in my DMs turned out to be a monster, but in defeating her, I found a better version of myself.